Okay, let's unpack this. We are jumping straight into one of the biggest stories out there right now. A huge, just seismic shift happening in New York. John Harbaugh is finalizing a deal to become the new head coach of the Giants. And the expectation isn't just high, it's immediate. I mean, almost impossibly so.
That's the tension, right? That's the core of it. For this deep dive, we pulled together a whole stack of sources, all focused on one sort of brutal central question.
Which is
it fair, or, is it even realistic to expect the Giants to win the NFC East in Harbaugh's very first season?
And the answers are all over the place.
Completely. We have highly credible arguments that say unequivocally hell no, that, improvement is all you can really ask for. But then we also have these compelling counter arguments suggesting that if he doesn't contend for that crown right away, he won't be in New York for very long.
Which is fascinating because you have to start with the baseline to even understand the job. I mean, the Giants have been struggling dramatically. They finished this past season with only 4 wins. The year before that, a mere 3. That is organizational rock bottom.
And that context is so key because our sources immediately compare that struggle to Harbaugh's, his pedigree. They highlight that his absolute worst season in his entire time with the Ravens saw the team win 5 games.
Right.
So just by showing up, the organizational floor, the minimum expectation has already been raised higher than what the last regime ever achieved.
That really sets the stage. But let's zoom out a bit because the sources are really emphasizing a shift in the entire league's hiring philosophy. And this connects directly to the pressure you, the listener, probably feel in your own world of leadership.
It does.
The standard for a newly hired coach is shifting, and it's accelerating.
It's accelerating so fast that this historical idea of a grace period, for a rebuild, it's completely gone, defunct.
And there's data to back that up.
For sure. Look at the numbers. Out of the 3 most recently hired NFL head coaches who got their teams to the playoffs, 2 of them were still coaching in the divisional round this year. They delivered playoff success almost instantly. That sets the tone for Harbaugh.
So here's where the analysis gets really insightful, because the sources are crystal clear. The clock isn't just ticking for Harbaugh in New York.
It's already ringing.
Exactly. That expectation that he gets 3 or 4 years to, mold the culture and draft his guys is just, it's out of step with the modern coaching environment.
It's a ruthless environment. One of our sources had this fantastic analogy for it. They described the modern NFL coach, especially a highly paid, experienced guy, as basically a 1099 contractor.
It's a contractor. I like that.
Yeah. They're brought in for a specific immediate fix. They're judged strictly year to year on output, not on potential.
Okay, let's stop on that 1099 analogy because it's a perfect microcosm of what modern leadership demands. If a coach isn't getting immediate results, the sources say it's either an extension
or, to use their very direct phrase, a flushing of the toilet.
Wow. So what does that mean for Harbaugh's approach on day one?
It means he cannot afford to make developmental decisions. He has to make winning decisions. That 1099 status, it strips away job security. It forces coaches to focus entirely on maximizing the talent they have today.
So every close loss, every questionable call
immediately triggers questions about his efficacy because he was hired to deliver a product, not start some long-term project.
And what's interesting is that this rapid turnaround isn't just a fantasy. It's now the established precedent. It's the new high standard for great coaches.
Exactly. Our sources cite specific examples. We're talking about coaches like Liam Cohen and Ben Johnson, who have come into new or struggling situations and just performed, or even exceeded expectations almost right away.
They showed you don't need years. You need weeks, months to get a system working.
And they even draw comparisons outside the NFL to really underline the point about cultural velocity.
Right. They brought up college football.
They did. They pointed to coaches like Curt Cignetti, who they argue completely rewired Indiana's entire football culture and the results in just 2 years. That's a staggering turnaround.
So the implication for Harbaugh is stark.
It is. If he is truly considered a great coach, the kind of coach worth that massive investment the Giants are making, he's going to be held to this exact same standard of instant overhaul. New York needs a cleanup, and the timeline is 1 to 2 years, max.
So the demand is instant contention for the division. But let's pump the brakes. Let's jump into that first major viewpoint. The source is screaming, Hell no. There is no way the Giants are winning the NFC East in year one. What's the foundational evidence against it?
The core argument is it's based on simple arithmetic. While improvement is definitely expected, the Giants' current personnel holes are just too numerous, and the established rivals in the NFC East are too powerful to leapfrog in a single offseason.
And you can't ignore that rivalry strength. The NFC East is historically just brutal.
Historically brutal and currently well-armed. I mean, even looking at last season, you had the Eagles and the Commanders both making noise deep into the season. And the Dallas Cowboys, you know, regardless of their playoff issues, they had one of the most high-powered offenses in the entire league.
Sure.
So to expect the Giants to climb from 3 and 4 wins to division champion over those 3 organizations while fixing their own problems, it's viewed as highly unrealistic fantasy by this group of sources.
And the skepticism really gets specific. It centers on crucial personnel concerns, especially on offense.
It absolutely does. And concern number 1 is health at the most important position. The detail around Jackson Dart, the Giants' young quarterback, is, well, it's alarming. The source material highlights that he is a concussion away from missing serious time.
And he's already had issues.
He's already visited protocol 5 times as a rookie.
5 times. That is a staggering level of vulnerability for a rookie. If your franchise quarterback is walking that fine line every single week, how can you possibly sustain the play needed to win a division?
You can't. You just can't. That risk alone makes sustained success questionable. And that vulnerability only gets worse when you look at the other major weapon on offense, running back Cam Scatterbo.
Right.
He is a crucial engine for that offense when he's healthy, but there's massive uncertainty about whether he'll be back to 100% from his injury.
So you have a foundation built on uncertainty and injury risk at 2 of your most critical spots.
Yeah.
That's shaky ground, even for a great coach like Harbaugh.
Precisely. And while they acknowledge the Giants do have material talent on defense, Dexter Lawrence is an absolute powerhouse, and Brian Burns is, as they say, a baller.
Yeah.
Even the defensive core isn't enough to carry the team past their rivals. The source material is adamant. They have too many holes to fill with depth and secondary help to expect a division title this season.
So taking the skeptical view, the sources are expecting what? A big improvement in the win column? Maybe competing for a wild card.
Right.
But that NFC East crown is just a bridge too far.
Yeah.
They expect competition, but not coronation.
That's the takeaway. Double the win total. Stabilize the team, make some noise in December. That is the realistic first-year ceiling for the Giants, according to this site.
Okay, now let's jump to the rebuttal. Because there is a very strong, very articulate counter-argument that says the Giants can absolutely be a playoff contender, and that the division's weaknesses make that crown far less of a fantasy than the skeptics believe.
Right, and this viewpoint argues that the skepticism is misplaced because it focuses too much on the static roster and not enough on the dynamic factor Harbaugh himself brings.
Which is?
They argue Harbaugh's arrival solves the single biggest, most frustrating problem the Giants had recently. They just could not finish games.
That's the core of the cultural shift he's supposed to deliver. Give us those specific, painful anecdotes the sources cite, because that's where this whole expectation comes from.
They bring them to life vividly. Think about the fan frustration from this past season. The Giants blew a late lead against Denver, a game they should have closed out. Even more painful was the loss to the Chicago Bears. They were competitive until Dart went into concussion protocol, and then former coach Brian Daboll made that infamous decision not to go for it on 4th and 1.
And those kinds of decisions, those failures to close out tight games, that's often a sign of a fundamental lack of coaching philosophy and team confidence.
That's the entire premise. Harbaugh is hired specifically to instill that toughness, that finishing instinct, that killer mentality. If he solves that cultural problem, you instantly flip 3 or 4 of those agonizing losses into wins.
And suddenly you're not a 4-win team.
Suddenly you're already sitting right in the playoff picture, and you haven't even made massive personnel changes yet.
And what's fascinating here is how this optimistic view looks at the same offensive personnel so differently. They don't see holes, they see untapped potential, just waiting for the right coach.
Exactly. They look at Jackson Dart as raw, yeah, but they stress he has the goods, the talent, the arm, the mobility, it's all there. He just needs coaching stability and a system that minimizes his risk while maximizing his strengths, and they believe Harbaugh provides that.
And who else on offense is getting this kind of hype?
They highlight Wan'Dale Robinson's massive potential to become a 1,000-yard receiver if he's used right in a reliable system. And then there's Malik Neighbors.
Coming off that big injury.
A tough injury, yeah, but the optimism is surprisingly high. They note that thanks to modern medicine, Malik Neighbors could be back to his old self. That dispels the old idea that a major knee injury is a career ender.
Right.
The expectation is a full recovery and high-level production right away.
And we can't forget the impact of a healthy Cam Skedaboo.
The hope there is that he doesn't just return physically, but that he brings his fire and that energy and that toughness and that physicality back to the offense. When he's running downhill with authority, it changes the entire dynamic of that team, something they were desperately lacking.
So offense is about unlocking latent talent. But then you flip to the defense, where the core isn't potential. It's established elite talent.
Absolutely. Brian Burns is noted as one of the best pass rushers in football, a complete game wrecker. They really drive that point home by reminding us of a crucial detail. The year Myles Garrett broke the sack record, Burns was number 2 in the league in sacks.
That's elite.
That is high-end, sustained production, and he's ready to anchor that defense.
And the hype around a guy like Abdul Carter, the second-year player, is huge too.
Carter is described as an absolute monster heading into his second year. The expectation here is that Harbaugh walks into a defense with established stars and massive internal growth just waiting to be unlocked.
Yeah.
He doesn't need to rebuild, he just needs to organize and motivate.
And then this confidence in an instant turnaround isn't just, theoretical hope. This view points directly to Harbaugh's own history to justify the expectation.
And that's the final nail in the coffin for the skeptics, according to this side. Harbaugh took the Baltimore Ravens, a team that had just finished 5-11, and in his very first year as a head coach, immediately flipped them to an 11-5 team. Playoff berth. He's done the impossible before.
So the argument is, if he's a great coach,
he's proven he can deliver that level of instant 6-win-plus improvement, and the expectation in New York must be nothing less.
That jump from 5 wins to 11 in one season is an organizational shockwave. It's what Giants fans are dreaming of.
And that history gives them every right to dream.
That's a strong argument. But let's synthesize that with a third major viewpoint, which focuses less on the Giants and more on the kind of shaky ground beneath their rivals. The idea that the NFC East itself is just wide open, regardless of whether the Giants are fully fixed yet.
This is a critical factor. The sources describe the division winner this year as extremely flawed, and maybe most tellingly, as of right now, the division has nobody left in the playoffs. That instability means that the traditional power structure is vulnerable.
If the rivals are weak or unstable, that radically lowers the bar. Let's look at that instability, starting with the Cowboys. What are the sources highlighting there?
The problem isn't necessarily personnel, it's organizational continuity. The Cowboys quarterback is dealing with a massive turnover in his coaching staff. The source notes he's getting an offensive coordinator that would be his 8th or 9th different offensive coordinator during his career.
8th or 9th coordinator,
Yes.
That is just, it's crippling instability for an established star quarterback who's supposed to be in his prime. Continuity is everything.
It absolutely starves an offense of its rhythm. No matter how talented the quarterback is, consistently learning a new vocabulary, new philosophies year after year, it just drains efficiency. The Cowboys might have the talent, but they're lacking that organizational glue.
And the Commanders and Eagles are also dealing with massive unknowns that Harbaugh isn't facing.
Exactly. The Eagles are adjusting to a new dynamic, and for the Commanders, the introduction of Jalen Hurts and Dan Quinn means the whole equation is unbalanced. They're basically asking, with this much turnover and flux among the heavyweights, if any division is truly up for grabs, why isn't it the NFC East right now?
Okay, so we have 3 perspectives. The brutal instant expectation, the skeptical wildcard ceiling view, and the optimistic view focused on talent and rival weakness. So what does this all mean for Harbaugh's immediate expectation when he signs that contract?
The conclusion that really synthesizes all the source material is this: the Giants paid for a great coach. If Harbaugh is the great coach they paid for, he must have the team in contention for the playoffs immediately. He can't afford a developmental year.
And that automatically elevates the division title into the conversation.
It does. And furthermore, if he doesn't have intentions to win the NFC East sooner rather than later, and that means year 1 or, at the latest, year 2, he just won't be in New York for long. The standard set by his coaching peers is too high to allow for a slow build.
The organization is betting on a shockwave, not a gentle current.
Exactly. It's a phenomenal dynamic. You can't be deemed a great coach and settle for anything less than a competitive winning record in your first year. And if you have that winning record in a volatile division where rivals are showing cracks, the division crown is suddenly not a fantasy. It's a real possibility.
And the sources all agree on that.